What's up, guys, and welcome back to the next installment of our series, Let's Explore How to Solo. Today's adventure is going to be trekking through Blackwing Lair. Now, this is probably my favorite raid from Vanilla WoW, and quite possibly my favorite raid ever installed in WoW. I love the way it looks, I love the bosses, I love the gear. The last boss in here, Nefarian, is probably my favorite dragon model in the game. Maybe after Deathwing, before he got all demented and torn apart by the old gods. But like flat out, like standard Deathwing model looked pretty dope too. Nefarian just looks amazing. But what we're going to be doing today is probably the first out of all the raids that we've covered before. The one that actually requires a little bit of, or I shouldn't say requires, but what it is that probably the most challenging out of the ones we've covered so far, because there's actually a little bit of technique. There actually are mechanics in this run through that can cause people a little bit of trouble. So what we're going to be looking at is an actual how to solo. I'm going to be walking through this raid with you and kind of explaining how to get past some of these fights with the mechanics that will give people trouble. The first two bosses being the majority of the trouble. Most people have a hard time getting past the first boss, and so that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time, and I'll kind of explain how to go over it, what you should look for, and what you should plan on if you are going to be doing this with any other class other than a warrior. I've gone through and I've done it with my warrior, my paladin, death knight, monk, shaman, and it's soloable by any other class, basically. People have been soloing it since before Blizzard patched it to where you were able to just solo the boss fight without having someone else in, but you had to have, they would like use bugs and exploits and things like that. But this is going to be a flat out straight actual solo of the boss, no mechanics, no gimmicks, and I'm going to be explaining to you guys how we're going to do it. But first, what we're looking at is the tier 2 for warriors here in Blackwing Lair. Originally, when this armor set was current, I really wasn't too big of a fan of it. I thought it was kind of too cartoony, looked kind of silly, but it's grown on me over the years. And oh my goodness, guys, let me tell you, this raid has some of the coolest two-hander weapons. This one in particular is sought after by many. Ashkandi, the great sword of the Brotherhood, and a couple others that we are looking at will be the two-handed mace here, which drops off some trash mobs. The Draconic Avenger, I believe it is called, drops off trash mobs as well. There we're looking at the sword again, and then the Untamed Blade drops off the first boss. And then we do have one more to show you. Where is it? Here it is. This axe as well drops off of some trash mobs, and it is pretty gorgeous looking. So if you're after two-handed weapons, some cool looking two-handed weapons, whether you're a warrior, death knight, paladin, Blackwing Lair is a great place to come check it out. Now, it is worth mentioning in Blackwing Lair, if you want to get your full tier 2 set, those actually drop off of Ragnaros in Molten Core. So you won't be able to get your full tier set here from Blackwing Lair. So we're going to head right in. Now, what you're going to look at is Blackwing Lair itself is actually located in the same mountain as Molten Core. If you'll remember, if you watched our Molten Core adventure, you flew down here and you talked to the Blood Elf and all that. But for Blackwing Lair, it's actually going to be just right up here. There's going to be a balcony. It's the same with the instance that you're going to see for Blackrock Spire. Now, there is an attunement quest for Blackwing Lair, and what we're going to do is the attunement quest gets you access to where you can just click on this orb and it teleports you in. Now, there are actually two ways to get into Blackwing Lair. You can do the attunement quest. It doesn't take very long at all, maybe 10 minutes of your time. You basically kill this guy over here. He will drop a letter. You start the quest, and then you go in through Blackrock Spire and you finish the quest, and then it lets you get into Blackwing Lair without having to go the back way. Now, the back way is actually through Blackrock Spire, and I will be showing you guys how to go the back way in if you want. I just recommend just doing the attunement quest. It's 10 minutes out of your time. That way you can just pour it right in, and not have to worry about it anymore, because more than likely if you're after the weapons, your tier set, you'll be here for quite a few runs, so it's worth getting attuned. And here we're going to show you just how to get into Blackwing Lair the back way instead of using the orb or going the route of getting yourself attuned. Now, unfortunately, I have to admit, this is going to be a little bit different than normal just because somehow the original recording got corrupted, and so the rooms in here should all be cleared already, bosses done, which I suppose works out for the better as far as just speed running it, just to kind of get this quickly out there so I don't bore you guys with taking forever. But as you can see, there's these rooms with runes on the floor. Normally these would all have orcs in them. You have to clear each of these rooms. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I believe. 7 in total. Each of them will have mobs in them that you need to clear out and kill. And then this door right here will open, which allows you to continue on through the instance itself. I do recommend just go ahead and getting attuned, just because it will be so much quicker for you in the long run. This is kind of a pain in the butt to do every time you want to run Blackwing Lair. Once you get to this room, there's going to be a boss up in the pedestal that you cannot attack unless you click on this. You'll click it, there will be mobs spawned around the room that will then come and attack you while the boss is waiting to spawn. That one takes a couple minutes for the boss to spawn in, so you'll be standing there for a little bit. This room right here is actually where you can come and get your Jenkins title and achievement. You just spawn all the eggs here, you just walk over them, I believe, and they spawn. Since we got a little extra time, let's find out. I think if you walk over them, they spawn. Yeah, just walk over them. And then you have to kill a certain amount of the whelps within a time frame, and then you get the Jenkins title. So pretty straightforward. You can just run the room real quickly, get some AoE, and it's done with level 90s. No big deal whatsoever. We're at the last leg of the running through the back end here of getting into Blackwing Lair. My goodness, get kicked around like crazy here. This last leg is probably the more frustrating, just of how long, just the time of it all takes. You can walk down this path to get to the portal to Blackwing Lair, but it will be locked off. So what you have to do is you have to jump down here. Once you get to the center of this pit here, and a little bit of a RP event will go on. Nefarian is up here in his human form, talking to Ren Blackhand, who then will, from this gate over here, spawn whelps and dragonkin to come attack you. Eventually he will come out himself and you'll fight him. Just takes about 5 minutes or so just for the whole thing to go, because obviously it's attuned and made for lower level DPS, not level 90 stuff to just chew through it. There's a random little blue dragonkin over here, which actually serves no purpose for the time being, but you can talk to him if you wish. Used to be a part of a quest, I believe, back in Vanilla WoW, but they since removed it. And so then over here, back here, is the instance or the entrance to Blackwing Lair. So if you see on your map, you'll follow through here, come through all around here. Again, pretty straightforward. Just it's more time consuming, just as far as the waiting and timed events go. Simply because of again, it all being timed out appropriately, more or less, for level 50 DPS and characters and things like that. But I do recommend getting attuned, simply for the fact that it's so much quicker just to walk up, click on the orb, port in, and then having to go through this every time. Now, regardless of whether you take the portal or if you take the back entrance here, it'll drop you off at the front of Blackwing Lair here in the Dragon Maw Garrison every time. There's no different order that you'll get in to that. And so, but yeah, that's how you'll get into Blackwing Lair if you don't have attuned. Alright, so what we're looking at here when we first step foot into the raid is our first boss right off the bat. No trash to clear, nothing like that. Bosses over here to your right, mobs over here to your left, eggs in the center. The goal and objective of this is to destroy all the eggs before the boss dies, so you are not going to be attacking the boss. If the boss dies, you are in fact going to wipe the raid. You're going to have to start over. Throughout the course of this fight, what will happen is as you control the boss, you'll have mobs spawn from each corner of the room. The boss himself, when you are mind controlling him with this orb right over here, the boss is going to have a set of skills, one of which is going to be to destroy the eggs, another is going to be to tame or calm the dragons. Some of the mobs he will spawn will be dragons, and what you'll do is you'll be able to put them to sleep, and it kind of helps keep that damage that they're going to be putting on the boss to a minimum. Now, of course, the goal of this is to keep those mobs from destroying or killing the boss. And how to best accomplish that when you are soloing this, because obviously if you're soloing this, you're not going to be able to mind control the boss and kill mobs. So what you're going to want to be doing is you're going to want to generate as much aggro as you possibly can before you start attacking the or before you start mind controlling the boss. So with warriors, that's pretty simple. With thunderclap, one of the best things you can do is just keep defensive stance on, generates a bunch of extra threat. Blade Storm helps great. Your Mocking Banner is an excellent tool, as well as specking into Enrage Regeneration, since healing generates threat as well. Now, for any other classes, any other comparable skills or talents are going to be great for this as well. If you're a healing spec class, on any of your skills, any of your heals, just throw a few of those up and you should be good. For paladins, consecration with righteous fury works great. But say you're a death knight, what you're going to be looking for is going to be death and decay, things like that. It is worth mentioning, if you're going to be coming through soloing this with a class that has a pet or a minion, i.e. hunters, death knights, warlocks, monks, you are going to want to have your pet or minion unsummoned. Do not summon them for this fight, because the boss, when you are mind controlling him, he counts as a pet or a minion. And so if you have one of your pets out, since you can only have one out, you will not be able to mind control the boss. And so the idea is that we're going to run over here, we're going to just get started, we're going to charge in, get rid of these mobs, and then after we kill them, we're going to drop down and we're going to use the mind control orb, which is going to allow us to now just take control of the boss. Our 4 key here is what's going to be used for destroying eggs. So our goal again is to run around this room and destroy the eggs as quickly as possible. Now the best way to do this is to kind of start toward the center of the room right there and work your way back and around. You don't want to just start running around at random destroying these eggs. It's best to kind of pick out a pattern or a path to walk down. This is kind of the way I got used to doing it, and it seems to work the best for me. And that way I'm able to work my way from the back, and if I need to let go of the boss himself to lay down some more threat, things like that, or say this timer down here runs out, the boss is at the farthest end of the room, and so I don't need to worry about him getting too close to me, me doing damage to him, things like that. I can just take care of all that I need to before the boss gets to me, and then I can walk back to the eggs I'm destroying really, really quickly, and it kind of keeps things moving at a good pace. That way I am not wasting my time here, because again, you're kind of under some pressure here. Now it is worth mentioning that don't be afraid to hit escape and let go of your control of the boss to lay down some more aggro on the trash mobs. That way you can kind of keep that up, because you don't want too many on the boss, because if the boss dies, you're done. You got to start over, and that's never fun, especially if you're almost done with the encounter itself. So as you can see, we've gotten most of the eggs for the back of this room done. I'm gonna let go of the boss, throw some aggro down here, do that, and grab control of him again, and then it picks us right back up. And as you can see, the boss was way back here again, so we're right where we left off. Quite nice. Put that dragonkin to sleep, and what you're gonna do is just keep moving around and keep doing what you're doing with these eggs. And then again, as you can see, the mobs get pretty crazy pretty quickly here. And so we want to try to keep things moving as quickly as possible. Some of the best things to do at this point might be, if you're getting a little overwhelmed, probably at this point what we're going to do is we're going to escape out, we're going to drop a thunderclap down, and I'm going to drop a Mocking Banner down, so that way the mobs will be drawn toward that Mocking Banner instead of me, or instead of the boss I should say, because our boss is getting a bit low on health, so this run might be failed as well. I tried this once before recording this, and I ended up getting ahead of myself and wiping it. So even after you've kind of gotten it down for a bit, you can still kind of screw it up if you're not paying attention. We might be able to pull this off. Still. I think once the boss gets down to like 70k health, 20, somewhere in there, I don't remember exactly actually, then he tends to wipe it. But we should be good here. Last egg right here. Hopefully I didn't miss any, or that will be embarrassing. There it is. So as soon as you've killed all the eggs, mobs run away, boss gets pissed and starts chasing after them. And now what you're going to be doing is actually fighting the boss. He has his conflagration skill, which causes you to take some fire damage, and you kind of lose control of your tune for a bit. But again, nothing serious to really worry about. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage, you'll be just fine. And first boss is down. So what we're going to see here again is more of our tier pieces, our bracers, and then some random cloth gloves. Again, same pattern as Molten Core, to where all of your gear that's going to drop in here is going to be class specific, not tokens. So if you're a monk or a death knight, you're probably in here just for weapons, not tier pieces. Now our second boss can also be a bit tricky. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to talk to him, which kind of engages the encounter. Now he's actually going to put a buff on you, which is kind of fun because it increases all of your like resource regeneration by a buttload. So as a warrior, it's kind of cool. You basically sit on 100% rage for a while. But he also throws out a debuff out if there's more than one person in your party, or if you have again a pet out. So again, if you're a pet class or a minion class, you may want to keep your pets put away. If you're doing this with a friend, put some distance between you guys, because one of you is going to get the debuff, and what the debuff does is it actually ends up killing whoever has it, but then it does a certain AoE amount of damage as well, to where anybody within a certain radius is going to die as well. So if you keep some distance between the two of you, one of you should live, be able to res, and then nothing, I think, should go according to plan. But again, with high enough DPS, you're just going to wreck through this guy pretty quickly anyways. So if you can do it without getting that debuff, then you should be good, but usually one of you ends up getting it. So we got our belts. We're going to kind of keep moving through. I just love the way this place looks. I love the architecture and the aesthetic, the look, the feel of it. The storyline, the lore behind it is just amazing. I just, yeah. Oh man, this place. This raid. Most of the gear in it looks epic too. Like a lot of the tier sets in here are just amazing. Like your shaman tiers. Now, depending on what you're after, you may want to kill trash mobs. You may not. Again, a lot of those two-handed weapons drop from trash mobs, so it might be worth it to you to kill them. But if you're just here for your tier pieces or whatever, then you can skip a lot of these trash mobs, particularly that one over in the far corner that we just killed. This one I think will aggro depending on how close you get to them. But every other boss from here on out is pretty straightforward. There are a couple mechanics you're going to watch out for, but nothing that will cause you as much frustration as the first boss and potentially the second boss, depending on who you're with. Are you by yourself? And then again, just how high your DPS is. Now this room is probably the most frustrating in Blackwing Lair because of these things right here. And what they do is they end up slowing you down. As you can see, we're moving slow. So that's kind of what's nice about being a warrior right now, is banners and charges. If you're a monk, you can roll, and you can flying serpent kick your way through. But if you're a class without any kind of charge or speed increases, then you're kind of up the creek without a paddle, and you're just going to have to walk your way through. Shamans with Ghost Wolf, you can kind of get through, but still it takes a while. You can, however, click on the nodes themselves and they go down for a bit, which helps. But it's pretty unreliable. You're still going to end up moving pretty slow through here. Luckily, the mobs in here, none of them really have a whole lot of health again, so you're not really going to be dealing with a whole lot scary-wise. It just takes a long time. We'll probably end up editing this out, cutting and pasting till we get up to the boss up here at the Broodlord Lasher. Broodlord Lasher, what we're going to do is we're going to pull him. Now we're going to get through this fight really quickly. The only thing you got to watch out with him is he has a knockback if the fight goes on long enough, so just make sure your back is toward the back of the room here, or this wall, not over here, because what he'll do is he'll actually end up knocking you off, and you'll have to walk all the way back up and around again, and it is just a pain in the butt. One of the cooler looking one-handed weapons, if you're a monk or a DK that you might be after, is this particular sword. Ironically enough, I'm actually after this on my monk, and I've yet to see it drop. That's kind of funny, of course. But yeah, the thing just looks really cool. As you can see, it's got like a dragon head for the hilt, and then the blade just looks amazing. So let me get our tier pieces again. Let me go through here. Another reason it might be worth your time to kill the trash mobs is they drop a lot of cloth, which depending on your server's economy, that can net you some pretty decent gold, and as well as the Elementium ingots. These are required for your legendary quest for... Is it the Hand of Rag or Thunder Fury? It's been so long, I cannot remember. I want to say Hand of Rag. Nope, Thunder Fury. One of those two. Anyways, you need a bunch of them. And depending on, again, your server, they can sell for a lot. So you yourself, whether you're after the legendaries or not, you can accumulate them for yourself without having to drop a ton of gold on them, or you can be the one to make a ton of gold off of them. It's kind of a nice little perk here. You can make some decent gold coming through here with some of these things. And again, picking up the greens just to disenchant it. Now we have this fourth boss, I'm sorry. Really straightforward, no mechanics to worry about. He actually kind of roams the hallways here, so eventually he'll actually come over here to you if you don't want to if you don't want to walk up the steps to him. He just kind of wanders around here, straightforward again, nothing to worry about, mechanics, no big deal. Warrior drops for days here. The Hourglass Sand might be worth picking up if you're coming through here with friends, just because of one of the last boss mechanics. You'll need it to kind of work off some of the things there. But again, if you're just kind of coming through by yourself, then you don't need to worry about the Hourglass Sand. This raid just looks so cool. This was one of those raids back in the day that if your guild was working on consistent Blackwing Lair progressions, you had some respect for people just because of how difficult that first boss was. It was very shocking, kind of overwhelming and surprising for players when they first stepped foot in here after Onyxia and all that. Just very, very different from anything else that they had really experienced at that point in the game. Very, very fun, but again, kind of a headache mechanic-wise for players. It was definitely a learning curve, and so anybody who was kind of moved past that boss was like, oh, you know your stuff. But as you can see, there are a lot of trash mobs in here. The nice thing about them, though, is most of them are skippable. You can usually run past most of the mobs, and without aggroing too many of them. Now, something else to look out for here is this tiny little goblin man here in the back, Master Elemental Shaper Crixix. If you are a miner, what he does is he actually drops blacksmith plans, or I should say smelting plans, for the enchanted Elementium bars, which are those legendary bars you'll see on the auction house from anywhere from 425 gold to 800 gold a pop. They are required for your Thunder Fury quest. Now what we have here is our 5th boss, and there's actually 2 bosses here in this room. Now you're going to want to, if your DPS is low, if you're like a fresh 90 or less than 90 soloing this, and you're in just kind of some blues or some fresh 90 greens, you're going to want to fight these bosses separately, because they end up, they'll put a dot up on you that will transfer damage and healing, so they can heal themselves over a percentage. And that gets a bit dicey. Just like, they won't kill you because the damage is so low, but it'll just take forever. So just because they don't take that long, you're better off just killing them one-on-one. And then down they go. Now again, all of these, the cool thing is actually a lot of these bosses in here are skinnable, which is kind of cool because you can pick up some lesser picked up mats that will sell for leatherworking and things like that if you're leveling up your leatherworking. Again, nothing that's going to make you a whole lot of gold, but it's worth noting at least. And then each of these worm guards, they actually have a resistance on them, which will cause them to take less damage from all types of damage, or cause them to take less from all damage sources that are like elemental or like a type of element, like shadow, holy, frost, fire, but they'll take a whole lot from extra. And Cro-Magus here has the same shield, and I believe with him, his actually changes throughout the course of the fight, so you're going to want to keep an eye out that if you're a caster. Now the thing about Cro-Magus, this is the boss where you're going to want that hourglass sand if the fight goes on for a while. He can actually freeze you or your party members if you come in here with friends, and you're going to want that hourglass sand to kind of sort that out. Again, if you are a class that has pets or minions, you're going to want to have them put away because again they count as a party member, and so he will put that debuff on you. You will actually end up kind of bugging it out because there's no one to break that, and so you'll kind of be stuck there for quite a while. I believe it's actually requires a log out for a bit until it counts your character as dead, then you re-res. One of the first times we came through here, one of my buddies and Thier, we ended up getting him locked in this raid for a bit. I felt really bad. It was kind of funny. We were like, yeah, come do Blackwing Lair with us, it'll be fun. He was like, okay. He like finally got his WoW account back because he hadn't played for so long because of school, and then like first night we get his main locked in Blackwing Lair. It's kind of messed up. Sorry, Anthir. Sorry. Moving on from our second to last boss, we are now pulling into the last stretch of this raid. It's a very, very linear raid, not a whole lot of optional things, just very straightforward, kind of plow right through. And it doesn't really take too long. Again, the only thing you'll really have trouble with is that first boss. This is where the fight with Nefarian is going to take place. As you walk in here, you're going to be finding your way over here to the throne, and you're going to talk to Lord Victor Nefarious. Talk to him. Speech. What he does is he ends up porting away for a bit, and these three holes here in the wall, what you're going to see is we're going to see dragonkin mobs spawn. So what I usually like to do, I'm sorry, there's not three, there's just two of them. What I usually do is I just kind of park over here in the center, and I just let them come to me, and I just take them off as they come. Just AoE damage usually gets it done. Mostly because single targeting all these mobs would be kind of a pain in the butt. You can wait until they all spawn if your computer can handle it. With a lot of mobs on the screen, it tends to lag out pretty bad. Back in the day, this was one of those raids where you actually needed 2 tanks. Actually, I don't know if it was really 2 tanks as much as you just need multiple. So I knew some guilds took 3, but at least 2, because you needed 1 for each door to tank each of the ads while DPS comes. And there's Nefarian as he makes his entrance. Just such a dope looking dragon model. We look kind of tiny compared to him. Good thing our DPS isn't tiny. Lols. He also as well will summon some ads. There they are, and again just AoE sorted, and then there we are. And that's Blackwing Lair. So here we're gonna get our tier 2 chest pieces that will drop here as well. A couple greens, some blues that will drop again, some bind on equip greens and blues that you can sell, engineering mats, all that stuff. And again, another quest ahead of Nefarian, you'll accept that quest, take it back to Stormwind, talk to the king, and they'll shout your name from the rooftops and hang Nefarian's head in front of Stormwind, and then the rallying cry of the Dragon Slayer shall descend and gives a cool little buff. That was always an amazing buff to get back in the day, like when someone went through and did all the work, cleared Blackwing Lair, and everybody in the city got a buff. It was nice. It was a nice little 2-hour buff. But that's Blackwing Lair. Once you get that first boss fight down, it's a breeze. Really fun place to kind of come through. Again, you'll probably take a few tries to get through here and get your tier. Paladins love coming to this place because Judgment is still to this day one of the coolest looking dungeon sets in the game. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. I would love to be as much help as I can. If you felt I didn't explain things well enough, if I wasn't clear, I am still kind of new and getting comfortable with explaining all this as I go through and commentating as I'm playing. And a lot of this stuff is just second nature to me now, and so I don't want to just assume that I'm making sense or that I covered something or didn't cover something. So please don't be afraid to ask questions. I'd love to be, again, as much help as I can. If you have any comments, criticism, again, please leave it in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys. As always, though, don't forget to thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe. It helps. It really does. And we'll keep plugging along. But this has been Let's Explore Blackwing Lair, and I will see you guys next time.